What's up, y'all? My name is Matthew Cuban Hernandez. We are here talking about my new album, Ivanna, on hiphophookah.com. So, to tell you about the title of the album, Ivanna. The album was dedicated to my mother, Ivanna Hernandez, who passed away March 9, 2017. And so, it's really meant to be a snapshot of my process dealing with the grief, but also just claiming all the things that she naturally said I was, or naturally really firmly believed I was. So I think for me, like, a lot of people put out albums in a lot of different ways. Like they'll put out their first album is usually like, I can rap, here's my bars, let me prove it to you. Let me show you all the techniques of hip hop and why I'm a rapper and why you should fuck with my career. And then like the second album is usually like the personal introspective album. Think Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City, and then To Pimp a Butterfly, right? And so I did that reverse process, not intentionally, but just because that was the place my life was in, and just really like the project that meant most to me. And so I'm formerly mostly known as a poet and a writer, and 99% of the time when a poet creates an album specifically to hip hop, it's not, I can't say 99% of the time, but a higher percentage than not, it's not a good album. It's usually a poet trying to switch things up. And I don't know if these two people are in the shot, but they're also great examples. They're also great examples of poets that have used techniques of hip hop and created hip hop projects that are not just like, this is me doing poetry to a beat, like real quality music storytelling. And so, being inspired by people like that, people that I know, people like G as well, Kane Shmigo, other poets who have transitioned, Watsky, who transitioned into making hip hop. I thought it made sense for this first project to be this. So, yeah, that's probably a long answer for the question. But yeah.
So in spoken word, there are no real rules as far as measures and bars go. But in music, there's a reason choruses happen, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason bars are 16,
Yeah.
or 12, or a multiple of 4. Like, music has sort of a math to it. Can you talk about the writing process from going to like just a free-floating form into fitting the structure of songs?
Oh, totally, yeah. That's a good question. From my good friend, Jonathan Brown.
Because it was a challenge for me too. And
It's hella challenging. So like for me, like I basically like relearned a different art form.
Right.
Because the only things that I really took from poetry into hip hop is like storytelling devices, and the exact language that I use, like the words that I use,
Right.
are very of I would say of like a poetic mind or a poetic approach.
Sure.
But essentially, like the craft itself, like no, I worked at the craft. Like I could always freestyle, I could always be on beat, you know what I mean? But like as far as like let me sit down and write what a song looks like, that was a process that took time, man. And I was very adamant about like I'm not gonna put out bullshit that's me working on that process. You know, like songs that are almost there, but I still need to look. Like when this album came out, when I was ready to put this album out, I had already made 20 different songs that I was like scrap, or just like been on, you know, various tracks with people who I think can really rap. And a lot of them were my students. So a lot of like me working with the young people I work with that are incarcerated when I'm teaching them hip hop or poetry is like, I'm giving y'all the lesson, but I'm really sitting here doing the lesson with y'all. And I'll be damned if like one of these kids is gonna write a better verse than me. And some of them motherfuckers do, some of them are really great.
Yeah.
So for me, man, it was like, I spent a solid year and a half, like at least writing, you know, 2 to 3 verses a day if I could, and just scrap. And some of those were quality that made the album, but the control of it, the comfort of being able to execute, yeah, that took time, man. And so I was coming from Duval, which has such a deep hip hop roots. I'm like, man, if I'm gonna put out something and call it hip hop, like it can't be bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, and the purpose of the album and the intent behind the album really drove me to be like, okay, I need to study this. I need to get my breath control right. I need to be able to make sure I'm not throwing too many syllables per bars. You know what I mean? Like, it's gotta sound like hip hop. It can't be no pretension. It can't be gay. You know, and so, yeah, that was kind of one of the things around it.
So, because you work so much with who are also artists, and you've been like a staple member in the adult coaching arena, so like you're always around other words and other people's work. So when attempting something new, right, attempting a hip hop project, is something new for you. How were you able to filter out everybody else's voice and everyone else's style to find your own new thing, right? Like, how did you know that you were certain that this was your own voice and it wasn't something that you picked up from your students or the artists you were with?
Wow, that's such a great question, Ebony Payne English, poet, creator, MC, mother, and author. Wow, it's so, thank you for that question. So, you know, I got plugged the Hoagies, but yeah, man, I mean, for years, it was always like, let me edit and work other people's work as a coach, and yeah, that shit's stifling as hell. I mean, I think for me, it wasn't like, how was I able to tune these things out and create my own project, as much as just how do you balance working on your own shit. And so my last real project that I really put out was a while ago. You know, like, I put out a live album, but that's like, let me record me being on tour.
Yeah.
That was with you and Joel.
No, that was even after that, where I just just put some live album stuff together, just really that I pulled off YouTube, of like, this was filmed in London, this was in Detroit, you know, and make a cool little album. But the last real project was probably like 2009. Even the album I did with Jolin, which came out later in 2010, that still had a lot of the work of what was created on the Planet of Dreams project. And so I hadn't created a real album since like almost 10 years. And so, yeah, I mean, it took me 10 years to do this shit. So it's like the process of just working with other people's art and soaking it in. I was still creating at that time, but to get to a point where I was like, okay, this is something I want to put out. Man, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of like patience with myself, because every year would pass, and be like, damn, I didn't do it. And another year would pass, like, damn, I didn't do it. And it would just feel like I was drifting further and further from the scene. So, I mean, everything ends up really being on time. When you're in it, you're like, fuck, I need to put something out. Like, damn, like, everybody else, I'm helping everybody else with the shit, and I'm not doing nothing for myself. And so for a little bit, I had to back off. Like, this year of creating this project, I was slightly more distant from certain things like youth coaching, and other areas like that. Like, I went to Southern Fried on just like some bullshit, just to like really see the family. Not really trying to do anything with my good friend Jonathan Brown, poet, MC, rapper extraordinaire, author,
Can I ask?
Scholar.
Bouncing off of what you said, who are some of the influences that we can hear in your voice? Like, even if you do your very best Kendrick Lamar imitation, it's still gonna be you. Like, who can we hear behind some of the lines of your stuff?
So, naturally, yeah, I mean, you can't be in an art form and not respect or study people at the top of the game, you know? Yeah. Those people are all influenced. I love Kendrick. I love J. Cole. I love Big Sean and how he gets offbeat and onbeat at times. Like, I fucks with that. Yeah. You know, like, I like all those artists. Those are cool. But I would say my biggest influences have been like the people that I grew up being inspired by. Yeah. And not because you're standing here, but you've been one of my biggest influences, even before I started doing hip hop. For real. Like, the intensity you put into your work was totally one of those things, you know? And so those have been artists. I would say, like, real biggest influences for me were probably like the young people that I worked with that were incarcerated, that were in the room while I was writing these verses. You know, because no verse on the album was just written at home. Maybe one or two out of like whatever 40 verses were on there, you know?
So if you could walk us through that, what does that look like? You give a writing exercise to your class in the prison, and then you're writing with them? Like you give the assignment and do the assignment and share with them?
Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's like, okay, here's the format of a persona poem. Let's write that. Or here's a starter line, if my scars could talk, and just go off that. Or here's a refrain, like I feel, and go off of that. But a lot of it was like with these kids that I was working with, they were so, like they would come in with notebooks full of bars. Like they would come in and be like, I've been writing all day in my head. Let's find a beat. And so we would just scroll through beats until we found something that rocked. And then we would write to whatever the emotion was. And we'd be like, oh, what are you writing about? Oh, what are you writing about? Okay. And just being incarcerated in general, the mind goes to, oh, who do I miss? Or what matters? Or what the fuck brought me here? Or what the fuck are my trials right now? Or what am I crying about when I'm alone at night? You know what I mean? Like, and those places was what I was in with dealing with loss and depression and all that shit. I'm like, well, fuck it, like let's go. And so I would share, they would share, and then I'd be like, can I share my little thing? And they would gas me up. They would be like, oh, no. And I know it was trash. I know it wasn't good. Like, they'd be like, like, no, right? It's all that great. But they kept showing so much love. Yeah. And really just being like, seeing them inspired by my little effort made me be like, okay, I really should try this. And so they'd be like, hop on a track with us. And so I'd throw a hook on there. And they'd be like, hop on a track with us. And then I'd throw like a chorus on there, or like a bridge. Oh, hop on a track, and I'm like, well, here's a verse. Yeah. And then that would build and build and build to where I was like, I want to perform with them during like an exhibition. And then it just got to be like, well, I'm going to work at something. I'm going to see what it creates. So I would watch my young guys be on like GarageBand and make a fly little beat. And I was like, you know what? Like, fuck it. I'm going to get on GarageBand and make some basic ass beats and then give it to somebody who can mix and master and like put a bass line in there and make it sound better. But yeah, like more than half the beats on the album I made myself, but they just came from trial and error, playing it for the kids and being like, y'all fuck with it? No? Okay, next, you know, and going off of those things. So yeah, man, that's those young guys were really the main inspiration that pulled me to it. But yeah, it would be various versions of let's write for 10 minutes and see what happens, you know. And man, these kids be spitting. These fools be spitting like they gonna get signed. And what's crazy is a few of them have in fact gotten signed. Like there's this young boy who I worked with for briefly at this camp called Challenger in Lancaster, California. And this kid's name is Jabba Low, right? And so he would come to class and he would just be writing about banging on people and murdering people. And I'd be like, you can't talk about this. Like, fuck that shit, I'm on World Star. And I was like, he ain't on World Star. I look him up and he on World Star with like 1 million something views of him fucking around. And he goes, fuck that shit, I don't want to fuck with your studio anyway. When I get out, I'm finna get signed. And I'm like, all right, bro. And this motherfucker got out and got signed by Snoop. Like, he signed to Snoop's label. Like, Snoop be doing songs with him now. Like, he's a hood legend right now. Like, he's making money rapping. Wow. You know, he's still within the gang culture and talking heavy, but you can look up Jabba Low and that motherfucker's doing his thing. Like fuck your positivity. He said, fuck it, bro. And he stopped. He wasn't mad. He wasn't like, fuck your class, I'm finna get at you. He was like, nah, it's cool, bro. I'm on my studio when I get out. And I was like, okay, you know, because every kid says that, and they're recording in somebody's closet. But a few of these cats really, really doing their thing. There's a few of my young boys that are like hot. You know, in the hoods of LA, like hood culture is like really big out there. So, yeah. All right. Yeah. My mama always said, take that knowledge to the head. Your life of loneliness and broken dreams will leave your heart lead, but I'm not incomplete. I'm in too deep. I search for hell. I felt that heat. I knew that God had sent for me as soon as I let sentence speech. I tell him if it's meant for me, that money might make sense to me. That loneliness and misery, it comes to me so frequently. It's fucking with my frequency. That good and evil tendency. That golden glitter tempting me nice until my temper speaks. The tempered jobs attempt to be me, but that's a fallacy. A force to false reality. Stay quiet with that childish speech. Grown man out as wild to me. A million miles without no speech. I'm born to make an alchemy. You soft as talcum powder be. Mama told me life is free. Stay gone from all stupidity. It's not about where you are right now. It's what you got the will to be. I'm fishing in an open sea. I'm reeling in the reeling me. This subpar life is killing me. I'm about to change my destiny like mama always said.
And 808 is all that keeps me sane. I got a hi-hat sitting on my brain. The bass that brings me so much joy knocks in the 15s of a Chevy boy, so go on and turn me up. You ever been turned down? Backed into corner, final warning, power's been shut down. They'll try to break your spirit, sanity's next to go. Just keep on grinding, in due time you'll be the next to blow. See, hip-hop saved my soul when I was 10 years old. Caught up in the current of an undertow. She gave me ebb and flow and taught my hope to float. Gave me a message for Nineveh, throw me off the boat.
I get more love on the road now than I do in my own town. So I'm homeless. I don't mean I'm homeless. I mean I'm home less than I used to be. Have you hit that age where everybody you grew up with is getting married and having kids? Well, my booking agent is called to say he's kicking heroin and we're barely friends. Fear is an illusion and so is failure, but I wish I could have been there for him. Airports are where I feel most at home. It's there more than any other place where people say, I love you and I'll miss you. Be careful.
What's good, everybody? Thank you so much for listening in. Thank you for checking out me and my homies. You can find me on Matthew Cuban on all social media outlets out there. Hit me up. Let's be friends. Tell me what's good. The album is streaming everywhere. Find me. Let me know what you think. If you buy it on iTunes, because then I get more money. But love y'all so much, and I hope to hear from you.
Yo, it's your girl Eb. Find me at ebonypaynenglish.com, EBONYPAYNEENGLISH. And all the links to the social media and content will be there. I'll see you soon.
What's up? This is Jonathan Brown. Thank y'all for listening. You can find me at jonathanbrownmusic.com and on Instagram at jonathanbrownmusic. Aggressively Vulnerable is out now.
Asking if you're there, you're sick and tired all my life, I don't see how that's fair. God, tell me what's your purpose, why you brought my angel home. And every day I see it in the mirror like a
Hell nah, yo.
Wow.
Hey there. Thanks for listening. You can find me.
Hi.
He's so dumb. Oh my god. Hi. My name is Matthew Cuban.
This ain't real, and I can't feel. Man, how the fuck my mama leave this world from taking doctor's pills? I got my fill of every lie that they had tried to tell me. And you can take my happiness to keep my mama healthy.